Okay, welcome back. You probably weren't expecting to see me quite so early, but there's something we need to talk about because Games Workshop has done that thing they do occasionally where they make a baffling and ridiculous choice, and I have no idea what to make of it. I would love an explanation for this, but the chances are we're not going to get one. However, it needs talking about because it's very, very silly. I'm addressing you directly, GW. It's very silly. So, we need to go back to the 17th of January 2025. You will note an article right here. LVO Preview 2025 Armies on Parade is back, and even better. Press X to doubt. So, a new year brings new hobby opportunities. This gets worse the more you read it when you know what's coming. And in hindsight, you will also find this hilarious. And the greatest global celebration of your army painting achievements, etc, etc. It's Armies on Parade, obviously. This is a welcoming year-long challenge that puts your building, painting, and conversion skills to the test. Important to note there. Your conversion skills are being put to the test. They want to see your conversions. They want to see it. For Armies on Parade, a whole bunch of beautifully converted and painted models, cohesive, in a lovely display. That's what they want to see from you, okay? Okay, got that? Got that? You know they want that, right? They want the conversions. They've mentioned it specifically. Well, on the FAQ for Armies on Parade, they clarify what they mean when they say this. They say what you're allowed to do stuff with, basically the things that are currently active and being released. They tell you what you're allowed to make stuff in, which is good. Middle-earth, you can't mix stuff from the Middle-earth strategy battle game with like Games Workshop stuff. That's not acceptable. You can't do that. I believe that is an old rule. I think that's a licensing thing more than anything else, and if I'm remembering correctly, that's not a new addition. That's kind of been the status quo for a while. But they specifically talk about conversions right here. So, you're free to make use of conversions too. Want to combine Acolyte hybrid parts with Cadian shock troops to make Twisted Genestealer cultist? Can't you already get a Genestealer cultist box used that has like Cadian stuff in it? Or am I just... Anyway, go for it. You can even use components from different Warhammer game systems where appropriate. What ominous language! Such incorporating the new Necromunda Zone Mortalis terrain into your Warhammer 40,000 display board, or using Sylvaneth parts from Warhammer Age of Sigmar to customise your Wood Elf army for Warhammer the Old World. Now this is where it gets, and I think the technical phrase is dumb as shit. However, you can't mix the actual settings. We can't have a Norn emissary on parade alongside Lord Croak. Who has anyone ever done that? I doubt it. And Cetra the Imperishable can't march to battle with Lionel Johnson. Again, two extremely over-the-top examples of things that, I don't know, maybe someone did just get Cetra and have them walk hand in hand with Lionel Johnson, but it seems unlikely. Parts and components from miniatures set in the 41st millennium and Age of Darkness may not be combined with those set in the Mortal Realms, World of Legend, or Blood Bowl. There we go. There we go. We've found it. We've found the hard line when it comes to conversions. The bottom line when it comes to conversions now is that you cannot mix Games Workshop's fantasy range with Games Workshop's sci-fi range. You're just not allowed to do it. It's not allowed. You cannot put it into Armies on Parade. Why? Like, this is a genuine, serious question, and I would love to hear an actual answer from an actual human being who is in a position to make this decision. Why limit the creativity of your customers and hobbyists? Who is gaining from this? Like, genuinely, who gains from Games Workshop saying you cannot mix our fantasy and sci-fi ranges together when converting models for Armies on Parade? I don't feel like I've gained anything from that. What do Games Workshop gain from that? I'm just editing the video, okay? And I've just turned the camera on because I'm watching it back and I'm reading the stuff again for like the 15th time today. And a little part of me just really wants this to be a mistake. Like, really wants this to be a draft. Like, they published the wrong draft. Like, they were thinking about doing this. They were thinking about saying, you know, hard divide. You can't mix the sci-fi and fantasy stuff. But actually, it's such a bizarre decision that I am rebelling against the idea of them doing it on purpose, because I feel like that surely they can't have actually meant that. Now, I'm willing to accept that quite possibly they actually do mean it, and I'm just clinging onto some sort of hope that they're not just outright going, nah, we don't want any of this. But such a core part of the hobby is converting and kit bashing, and they have shown off other people's converting and kit bashing that have mixed stuff from pretty much every range they have, and they've shown it off proudly and elevated these people and made it so that their work can be shown off to other hobbyists so often in the past that to suddenly say for Armies on Parade you're not allowed to do that anymore is actually insane. Like, it can't be the final decision, can it? I genuinely really want to have to make a video first thing tomorrow morning that's like, turns out that was the incorrect draft, they didn't mean to put it out, and actually that's all nonsense, and you can do what you did last time, because why would you limit that? Anyway, I need to finish editing this. I mean, if we think about some of the stuff that they've featured themselves, some of the things that have won awards not that long ago, I'm pretty sure, wasn't there a bit of drama about a Golden Demon entry not that long ago? Well, actually quite a long time ago now, but it was the one that had something of an AI-generated backdrop. But the actual model was extremely well done. It's also an Exodite model, and I believe it mixed two different things from two different Games Workshop ranges, one of which was fantasy and one of which was sci-fi. Now, that, if you wanted to do a whole army of them, would not be allowed in Armies on Parade. Because... Don't know. No idea. Just no clue. You just wouldn't be allowed to do it because Games Workshop have said no. And that's it. It's a terrible decision. It just is. It just sucks. Like, how are you going to talk about rewarding creativity and specifically mention kit bashing and converting and then go, now of course we're placing an artificial hard limit on what you can convert, but go for it anyway. It's almost like that defeats the point of such things. I mean, there are so many different army ideas that are completely knocked on the head by this. Did you want to do, like, say, a feudal guard regiment? Well, the best place to find stuff for that would probably be in the AOS and Old World ranges. But you're not allowed to do that anymore for Armies on Parade, so don't bother. I mean, as someone who loves converting and kit bashing stuff, this is insanely rough decision making. And the thing is, if I could work out what the benefit was, like who gains? Like, if I could work out whether it makes something easier, whether it makes some more money somehow, whether it's just, maybe they're just sick of seeing Exodites, I don't know. I mean, hell, I've just had a random idea of what if you want to do, for instance, a kind of like really grim, penitent Cities of Sigmar army using the Cawdor bodies from Necromunda. That would be sick. You're not allowed to do it, though, for Armies on Parade, because you're mixing sci-fi and fantasy. Which has never been a problem before. And this is the other thing. It's never been an issue. It's not been a problem. It's just, suddenly, no. Why are you putting hard limits on creativity for a competition about creativity and skill? What are you talking about? This is an example, actually, that I have right over here. This is a Cosmic Horror Megagargon that I made. Now, I've got enough of these to do an Armies on Parade board, but I wouldn't be able to include this. And that's for a very specific reason. Because, oh, he's dusty, I should really paint this model. Despite the fact that most of this stuff is actually AOS, there is something that isn't. This arm, that's not an arm. That is actually part of a power pack from the old Demon Prince kit. Now, despite the fact that everything else on here would be absolutely fine, that would mean that my entry would not be allowed. Does that seem sensible to you in any way, shape or form? Now, admittedly, this is a small example. This is one model, and everything else is very, it's all from like the fantasy side of Games Workshop's range. But all the same, that distinction, the fact that it's one piece, makes no difference. They have specified in the rules, you cannot mix components. Components! Not full models, not entire squads, not things that would take up a significant amount of board space. Components. This is a single component. This would not be allowed. I mean, I know it looks a bit mad, that's fine, but in every other way, this would fall under the rules as being acceptable. But not this. Not this component. Oh no. That would be a problem. Now, admittedly, an extreme example, but an example nonetheless. Do you personally think that it makes any sense that an entire board of stuff that featured almost entirely nothing but AOS or old world based stuff should be disallowed for that one component? I don't think it should, and yes, in the rules as written, that wouldn't be allowed. I also, by the way, have no idea how this rule would interact with stuff that is available in both systems. We're talking Chaos Demons, we're talking Zangors, talking Mutaleth, Vortex, Beast. The Defiler and the Soul Grinder share a certain number of components between them. Do you ask the person who's got like half a Soul Grinder but the rest of it is made up of other AOS kits, hey, is that off a Soul Grinder or a Defiler? And if they say Defiler but it's the same parts, is that a problem? Is it not a problem? I know, a ridiculous example, an extreme example, but it's still an example of something that someone could quite easily do. I could do that now. I have a Defiler that I could chop the front half off, make something for AOS. Technically, it wouldn't be allowed by the rules for Armies on Parade if I included it on a board. But the thing is, the parts would be probably the same, but I didn't get it from the right box. Is that a problem? I don't know. Do they? Probably not. The Demon Prince, that is a dual-purpose kit as well. Again, it's rare, okay? It's very rare that Games Workshop makes the decision that I look at and my immediate response is, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just what are you doing? This is one. Like, I can understand some of them. Some of them, when it's a case of, like, ditching old kits or sacrificing an entire range borderline. So, like, Stormcast Eternals, for instance, the fact they sacked off half that range, bad, real bad. I do understand why they did it. They hadn't found the identity of that range yet. So they remade it, and they remade it, frankly, for me anyway, a little bit better, and then they sacked the rest off. It sucks, but I understand the decision, even if I don't like it. This just doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. Again, who benefits? And if they benefit, how do they benefit? And could they explain that so that it stops seeming like they're just being stupid for no reason? Because that would be nice.